For many of us, whether we are finance professionals or other certified desk jockeys, remote working is the new normal, and it really is no surprise. I mean, by transitioning from the office to home, which has happened now since COVID quite a lot, we can arguably reduce costs and increase productivity. But the question is, can we really? So some of you may have adopted a hybrid working practice, but adapting to a world where work and life share the same space really does have its challenges. So in this video, based on my experiences, trials and tribulations, I'm going to highlight 3 ways that I feel you can adopt to being an effective remote worker. Number 1, and perhaps it does sound obvious, but that is to set up your workspace efficiently. Now, if you ignore this, it's like a footballer, a soccer player, if you like, walking onto the football pitch without proper boots, perhaps his walking boots. I mean, it's not going to stop him from playing, but it certainly is going to limit his effectiveness. So one of the things I want to just do here is take you on a quick tour of my own home office and how I've set things up for myself. For a start, I have a separate office with a closable door. Now, that's really important because if you close the door when you're inside your office, within your home or your living space, it shows other people in the house that you're at work and that you shouldn't be disturbed. And hopefully that will minimize distractions. Now, I know that many of you won't have the luxury of setting apart a whole room or even part of a room for an office like this, but it's worth still trying to find one space in the house that you use consistently for home working and that you can again sort of pack up at the end of the day. Next, you need a desk, and your laptop on your lap just isn't a desk at all. So I've got one here just under the camera, and ideally quite a large one so I can spread things out, put my papers out. So for instance, if I'm on a Zoom call and I need access to my keyboard, my mouse and papers at the same time. Some of you are actually rate standing desks, so you don't need to be sat down all day, giving you an opportunity to move. And I can certainly resonate with that. And that then brings me onto my chair. Now, this is a very high quality chair that supports my spine. In fact, it's the most expensive thing in my office after my laptop. And that's because there's a real risk when you're home working, when I'm home working, that you'll spend a lot of your time, like I do, sitting at your desk. And if you don't invest in a high quality chair, you do risk causing yourself some kind of back injury or problems, certainly from slouching. That's one of the key ones. And the rest is you need everything else within easy reach. So a printer, any filing space, cabinets, a desk lamp, and if it is possible to have a room with a window with light and fresh air, that makes a big difference. As you can see behind me, I have a window with plenty of light coming in and I can open the window for fresh air. Some personal touches, you can see here I have a plant to give me oxygen and some motivational signs which you can see on screen now. Number 2 is to consciously, and I'm going to emphasize the word consciously, try and find a balance between work and home life. Now, this is actually one of the biggest challenges I found, because when your workspace is also your home space, the boundaries actually between the personal and professional, your personal and professional lives actually does become blurred. It's very easy for that to happen. And the greater the distance you can carve out between your work and personal lives, the better. This is how I do it. Firstly, I develop a structured work day. So I set my mind the night before and act as if I'm physically going to go to work in the morning. I'm up early, being a morning person, that's my preference. And this is when I feel I'm at my best. So you need to find when you're at your best, but normally your circadian rhythm should really align with, I guess, normal office hours, whichever country you're in. So whether it's 9 to 5, 8:30 to 6, whatever it may be. So I'm at my sharpest in the morning, and after breakfast, I'll go for a 30-minute walk every single working day, no matter what the weather, to get some fresh air, sunlight, and importantly, movement. That is key, critical. I'm not rolling out of bed downstairs or, on the same floor, going for my breakfast and then just coming back to my desk. That movement, I think, really does stimulate you and is so important in terms of motivating you and giving you the right level of energy to get into your day. Then I'm at my desk pretty much at the same time every day, consistently, barring a few exceptions where I may have to go physically into an office for meetings or otherwise. And then I actually manage my time within the working day. And this is crucial. Now, there's a lot of talk about sort of having priority, to-do lists, etc., etc. But, it is important. I have that. I have a piece of software called Asana where I prioritize my day. I know exactly, what I'm going to be doing that morning or what I want to actually tick off. And also I schedule breaks to make sure, again, I get away from my desk, I get away from my chair, I move about a bit, I give my brain and eyes a bit of a break, but also I importantly work in bursts so I don't get distracted, normally around about 1 hour bursts, 90 minutes perhaps at the most, and then I will actually take a break. Again, I use another app called Timula. And again, I'm not sponsored by Timula or Asana. These are just apps I've been using for a while, which help me track what I need to do, what I've got done and ticked off, and also, where my time is being spent during the day. And I do agree that there are going to be distractions. That depends what you mean by distractions. Obviously, a lot of you, it's all about communication. You're going to get messages, whether you're using Slack, Skype, email, or any other kind of platform. Nowadays, it could be WhatsApp or Telegram or anything like that. It depends on what you use. And, yes, these messages are going to come out, they're going to come during the day, unexpected, some of them. So that brings me on to the next point, and that is the art of remote communication. So we can often be deluged by calls, emails, text messages, Slack messages, Skype messages, numerous other platform messages. I mean, it's just unlimited now out there how many different platforms there are that we get messages from, how different people, whether it's suppliers, clients, colleagues, whatever it may be. I mean, I know in some organizations it's quite standardized, but in others it can be disparate, and you can have so many different platforms. It's, it can be quite distracting and it can be stressful. It really can. But the bad news here, that remote working actually requires more conscious communication than actually we may be used to. And there's a fine balance between sharing the too little and too much information. You see, when you're in an office environment, you can swiftly chat with a colleague, whether you're sat next to them, opposite them, whatever, you can quickly go over there, have that little chat, oh, what's the password to this? Or, just quickly confirm that. And it can happen verbally very, very quickly. You can drop in a confirmation. You can pick up on, vibes of a project, certain bits of information just by being passive about it, keeping your ears open, i.e. the coffee machine syndrome, or obviously physical meetings where you can sort of, actually pick up on things. So when you're working remotely, you can actually feel isolated from a lot of these things, and also, crucially miss out on vital bits of information as a result. So there's no sort of textbook right or wrong when it comes to sort of remote communication. A lot depends on the culture of your organization as well. But what I want to give you as a tip is to focus on what I see as 3 principles of effective remote communication. And number 1 is deciding on the frequency of communication. So I say, what I do is I put together windows in the day as to when, I'm going to check text messages, emails, and then ultimately respond. I mean, yes, I do acknowledge sometimes, I need to respond swiftly outside of my designated windows, because obviously in between I've got focus work to do. That's what I need to be getting on with, the real value added stuff. But communication is key, crucial in that respect. So you've got to try and find a balance in there. And then that leads me on to contextual communication. So if you are genuinely too busy or focused to, attend to a message, to respond, I guess, in detail, then at least attempt a contextual holding response. That's what I like to do. Have one written out ready so you can quickly copy and paste it. So for example, on screen, you can see here, hi, I'm just in the middle of something, XXX, and I'll respond to your message by my earliest, XXX. You can do something as simple as that. And, that way the sender doesn't feel ignored, unvalued, and starts to speculate whether you're actually working or sunbathing in your back garden. And then thirdly is, of course, specific communication. Now, specific communication is about making sure you provide enough information for someone to take action, or actually to get the necessary level of information to answer their query, or to address that message so the thread doesn't necessarily have to continue. Okay, again, in some instances, I get it. It has to be a continuous thread. But essentially, when you're communicating digitally, over-communicating is always better than making assumptions about what the other person is thinking or actually doing. And I have far too often seen pieces of written communication that are incomplete or written as if, it's being tweeted on Twitter with a limited amount of characters. You don't have to limit yourself. And this only leads to a prolonged thread of messages, unnecessarily a lot of the time, ambiguity, and often confusion. It becomes a disjointed thread. And that is just, more frustrating and actually not good for the entire conversation than perhaps over-communicating, but structurally and specifically over-communicating in the first place. So be clear, specific, and over-communicate if you have to. So you may be working from home as an independent contractor or a self-employed person, which is very, very common now across the world. So in which case, this video on screen now may be useful to you in explaining what expenses you can claim tax relief for, certainly here in the UK when you are working from home.